It's a new option for a green screen. I was just seeing if we could get Micah Miller's face on here. Ooh, you guys, something doesn't want me to read this energy, I'm telling you. I was having the hardest time connecting, and I'm not sure why. I'm shadows in the moonlight. Yeah, there's something that doesn't want me to read this energy, but I'm gonna do the best I can, and we'll see if we can get a higher perspective of Micah Miller's linear view of her human experience. Hello, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for all your love and support. We are so grateful. We don't want to speak. Maybe that's why. Someone doesn't want me to give this message out. Well, listen, my name is Patience. Thank you so much for being with us. 1:44 on the clock. We are so grateful to be able to bring the messages forward and to connect with Holy Divine Spirit and to share how we do it, and not for you to do it like us, but for you to see that it's being done and that it's possible, and you don't need to do any rituals or witchcraft or ceremonies or whatever. You don't need to burn anything. All you need to do is have gratitude, be grateful for all you have, and it literally brings you closer to divine energy. Tree of life. Yes, tree of life. So, my name is Patience. I am a spirit medium 222 on the clock. I'm a spirit medium. I've been developing my spiritual abilities for the past 5 years. I was a childhood psychic and I repressed it because I was told I was evil and that I was crazy and I didn't like it, so I turned it off. But now we are developing it because we want to use our powers for good, and we want to not waste this spiritual gift that we believe can be very useful, very helpful to be of service to the collective. So we're using this platform as guided by my spirit team to develop it, and we use the opportunity to possibly shed light on mysteries of the collective, where people do things behind people's backs and in the dark that need to be brought to light. To reveal is to heal. So we're here to reveal the truth of what happened to Micah Miller. Micah Miller, she's actually a pastor's wife. And, I really hate saying that because the pastor she was a wife to could possibly have had something to do with her untimely demise. Hello, life. Hello. Thanks for being here. And by the way, thank you so much, everyone, for all your love and support. We really are grateful for all of the supporters that have been coming along. If you're new here, thank you so much for visiting us. Hi, Gally. Oh, I'm not gonna take it. I mean, you can ask the question if it's Spirit wants us to answer it, I will. But if I have an answer, I mean, I don't know everything. So I'm here learning just like you, sharing my human experience of this spiritual journey. I do not know everything. Do I know anything about Kurdistan? I don't. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about that. Spirit just said multiple deaths. So Micah Miller was the wife of a pastor of a church. And it's a mystery the way she died, because everybody says that she wasn't somebody who would take her own life. And I get the vibe that she wasn't either. And I was watching her videos, and she had such a strong connection with God that I really don't think she would have taken that way out from her own ideas, you know, from her own ideas. So, hi, Nicole. Thanks for being here. Do I have any advice on relationships? It's very vague. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give advice about relationships. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just here reading energy, and we're going to focus on Micah Miller because this is her time. So I really want to be able to bring a higher perspective from Micah, because I promised that I'd bring her energy through. Okay. Do you believe that Jesus is our only way to salvation? Well, his name is Yeshua. That was his name. The letter J was not even invented until like the 1600s. So his name is Yeshua in his language. I do believe that there was a Yeshua, and I do believe that he is the example of what it's like to be connected to God. Yeah, totally. He's my homie. We're homies. I definitely can't do this without Yeshua, for sure. He's an ascended master. So there's a lot of there's a lot of distractions. There's something that doesn't want me to read this energy, and I'm going to do the best I can. I'm new to this ability, so I am learning just like you guys. I'll do the best I can. That's enough for me to know you aren't operating in the Holy Spirit. Okay, you can have your opinion, and I love you still, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Whatever's here for you is meant for you, and thank you so much for being here. So, so MICA was actually a follower of God. She was very devout in her belief system. She would help in the church, and so I found it really weird that she would take her own life. And lots of people think it's weird, and they don't understand how that could have happened. So we're going to see if we can get a higher perspective. There's lots of people who think that her husband was involved in her unaliving of herself, even though there isn't any evidence to directly connect physically. But as we are learning doing the reads here, that just because somebody isn't physically connected doesn't mean that there isn't some energetic way that they could have been responsible for some kind of intrusive thought, or some kind of oppression, or some kind of rejection, or something along those lines. So we're gonna get Micah Miller's perspective and see what she wants to tell us. And I'm not really sure what'll come through, and I'm gonna do my best. I don't know how it'll turn out, but I do have right here Narcissist at the top of the deck. I do have right there Narcissist. So I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read out of the Bible first because I'm being called to do that. Joys and Miseries of Life, chapter 40, Ben Sirah. 40. A great anxiety has God allotted, and a heavy yoke to the children of Adam. From the day they leave their mother's womb until the day they return to the mother of all the living, troubled thoughts and fear of heart are theirs, and anxious foreboding until death. Whether one sits on a lofty throne or grovels in dust and ashes, whether one wears a splendid crown or is clothed in the coarsest of garments, there is wrath and envy, trouble and dread, terror of death, fury and strife. Even when one lies on his bed to rest, his cares disturb his sleep at night. So short is his rest, it seems like none. Till his dreams he struggles as he did by day, troubled by the visions of his mind, like a fugitive fleeing from the pursuer. As he reaches safety, he wakes up astonished that there was nothing to fear. To all flesh, human being and beast, but for sinners 7 times more. Come plague and bloodshed, fiery heat and drought, plunder and ruin, famine and death, for the wicked evil was created, and because of them destruction hastens. All that is of earth returns to earth, and what is from above returns above. All that comes from bribes or injustice will be wiped out, but loyalty remains forever. Wealth from injustice is like a flooding wadi, like a mighty stream with lightning and thunder. That's interesting because it says all that comes from bribes or injustice will be wiped out. Wealth from injustice is like a flooding wadi. That, when I read that, the thought came to my mind about her husband, which I hate calling him her husband. Her, I guess it was her husband. He had what was it? He had the church. He was a minister, and his church, something about him stealing money from the church. There's some kind of justice that's going to come from somebody who claims to be loyal to God but accepts bribes and receives wealth injusticely. Which maybe that's why she died, because she was in the middle of a divorce. She wanted a divorce. She's filed papers for divorce the day before she died, I believe. And this was like the third time she had filed for divorce, and he kept pulling her back in. And this was the last straw. The offshoot of violence will not flourish, for the root of godless is on sheer rock, which in its rising rolls along the stones, but suddenly once and for all comes to an end. She could have wanted to reveal, she could have said, I'm going to tell everybody that you steal money from the church if you don't leave me alone. Because he started tracking her. He put a tracker on her car. He put her in the mental hospital, claiming that she had mental problems, but really she was completely fine before she met him. So he was trying to flip the script on her. He was trying to say that she was the one that had, all these issues, but really she was just trying to escape an abuser, somebody who's a narcissist, somebody who's full of themselves. And he was also having an affair with somebody else. She claimed to have that possibly he could have groomed her because she was the babysitter to his 5 children. And they ended up becoming married. But I believe she's 14 years younger than him. So there's something about that. And it says the offshoot of violence. She made many social media posts alluding to possibly being mentally, physically abused, a battered wife, and that she believed that God would help get her out of that situation, or get the person going through that out of the situation. But I really feel deep down she was talking about herself. They are like reeds on riverbanks, whether before all other plants. But goodness, like eternity, will never be cut off, and righteousness endures forever. Wealth or wages can make life sweet, but better than either finding a treasure, a child, or triggered the curse.
Drain battery.
Drained her battery. A child or a city will preserve one's name, but better than either finding wisdom. Cattle and orchards make a person flourish, but better than either a devoted wife. I cannot make it up, you guys. A devoted wife. And it says right here in her obituary, which is bizarre, this obituary, because it says MICA would take on any challenge, even if it was being a vegan for an entire year. MICA was a great stepmother, an amazing wife, and helpmate. She helped Pastor JP with the church in every way. MICA was a worship leader, graphics designer, youth leader, women's ministry leader, and pastor's assistant. And she did all this with the utmost integrity and faithfulness. MICA made the greatest of efforts to always be the best wife she could be. She truly served Jesus and her husband with all of her heart. She would praise her husband after every church service, telling him he was the best preacher in the world, even if it wasn't true. She also told him he was the funniest preacher in the world, even if that wasn't true either. That sounds bizarre, okay? When my sister's father passed and we wrote his obituary, we weren't interested in talking about ourselves. So I thought that was really weird. Wine and strong drink delight the soul, but better than either love and friends. Flute and harp offer sweet melody, but better either a pure tongue. Grace and beauty delight the eye, but better either the produce of the field. A friend and a neighbor are timely guides, but better than either a sensible wife. And again with the wife. Relatives and helpers for times of stress, but better than either charity that rescues. Gold and silver that makes one way secure, but better than either sound judgment. Wealth and vigor make the heart exult, but better than either fear of God. In the fear of the Lord there is no want. Whoever has it needs to seek no other support. The fear of God is a paradise of blessings. Its canopy is over all that is glorious. My son, do not live in the life of a beggar. Better to die than to beg. When one has to look to a stranger's table, life is not worth living. The delicacies offered bring revulsion of spirit, and to the intelligent inward torture. In the mouth of the shameless begging a sweet, but within him it burns like fire.
Verily.
I think Micah's telling us that her husband may have become thank you, Spirit. I'm at work. Micah's telling us that her husband may have become a beggar of money, of silver and gold, and his church became more of a work to. Spirit just said, "I'm at work." It became more of like every time they did a service, it wasn't to praise God; it was to raise money. It wasn't to praise, it was to raise money. So he began to, please put your money in the dish if you had fun tonight and you want to donate to our church. And it became more of about the money. So there's something about him stealing money from the church and becoming a beggar to delight in the pleasures of the flesh. Okay, and there may be something about how she rejected this idea, and there was always arguments about his stumbling and tripping over the finances and giving into and having no self-control. And she could have called him out on being a false prophet, being a false pastor, somebody who was more interested in the treasure than preserving the energy of God. And she thought that he was starting to become wicked. She was noticing that he was forsaking the law of the Most High, that he was starting to disgrace, that he was a disgrace, that perpetual disgrace, that he was a sinner, that he was constantly showing his wickedness. Or the longer that she was with him, she got to see how wicked he was. She could have possibly started to call him out, but could have possibly felt obligated to stay because of the children. She didn't want to betray him because she was ashamed of a secret that she held. Repeating what you hear of betraying any secret, be ashamed of the right things, and you will find favor in the sight of all. But of these things do not be ashamed, lest you sin to save face. Of the law of the Most High and his precepts. Yeah, she definitely may have kept a confirmation. She may have possibly kept a secret of how wicked he was, and she possibly wanted to save the... Don't do that. Yeah, she would call him out, and it would create arguments, and it would create more wickedness within him. Interesting. So she had a wound of shame because she kept this secret. Please tell us more. He's definitely a narcissist. What else do you want us to know? I want to know what happened what happened leading up to the day of your death? Micah Miller, thank you for being with us. I'm so grateful to bring your energy forward. It's my honor to bring a message forward, to get your perspective, your human perspective, a higher view of your human perspective. Please let us know, how can we help? How can we help? Micah Miller, the mystery of Micah Miller. Tell us what happened. Monster. Green-eyed monster. Actually, a green-eyed monster couldn't grasp somebody who appears to be harmless and friendly, but really they're a monster. They're somebody who compares themselves to other people, who... Confirmation. She was trying to be flexible. She was trying to keep an open mind. She was trying to adapt because she was groomed at a very young age. So she wasn't aware. She didn't have a lot of experience with other relationships and how they should look. And she tried... Oh, he could have been very... Oh, look, skinny, and there's 2 donuts here. He could have been very concerned about outward looks. You know, he could have possibly emotionally abused her, having to do with like her body shaming, always saying, you know, don't eat those donuts, or oh, you're gonna eat that, you know, constantly like criticizing the way she eats. And that may have been because I see green flags here. That could have been a way, one of the signs in the beginning that she kind of ignored, that she kind of kept an open mind about. She's like, oh, well, he just cares about me being healthy. You know, she made an excuse for some of the red flags he was showing, and this red card popped up. Some of the, there were pink flags. And then another flag that she ignored was his spending. He could have had some kind of rules about spending, but then he would spend the way he wanted to. But then when it came to what she spent on, he was very conservative and always telling her that she spends too much. He was very criticizing of her, but yet he could spend on whatever he wanted. So she's showing us some signs where she was trying to be flexible, trying to be open-minded at these red flags, but these were things that she should have took as, oh, these are like showing me signs of what's to come. Okay, because he's very charming. He seems harmless. He seems friendly. There's things that she didn't understand, but really he's a monster. So these are just some. It was like I'm getting, it was like a slow drip. It wasn't something that was right away. It took years to really like for her to have the maturity to understand the red flags that were being shown at the beginning. But it was a slow drip. So he may have been criticizing, you know, what she eats and what she wears and her body, like playfully, almost like jokingly, and she kind of like brushed it off and was trying to adapt. She was very innocent. She was very young at the time that she met him. Then his spending, she saw that his, you know, he had bad spending habits. He wasn't moderate. He didn't moderate his spending, but she was innocent. She was flexible. She's like, well, he makes the money, so he can spend it the way he wants. Faith. Yeah, so she was... I can watch over you. Thank you. She liked being under his wing because she revered his faith. It was his what he was what's the word? What she was perceiving about his faith, in his desire to be faithful, to have, and he was an aspiration. It gave her creative energy. It made her feel at ease because she perceived him as having such a high faith because he's a pastor. So he must know what's best. You know, it was a very like power dynamic where it's that classic, you know, the priest has all the answers. The priest is the one who, the pastor's the one who is the closest to God. So whatever he's doing, it must be true because he's the pastor and he knows best, or she knows best. But that's not always true. I'm not saying every pastor is like this pastor, but there's a lot of false pastors, priests, and prophets out there that are greedy, that use their faith as a way to control people, that abuse their power. And this is the dynamic going on here. So she was young, you know, she saw like little red flags, but she was too young and naive to really understand what those things were telling her. And she sees now from a higher perspective, in retrospect, those were things that God was showing her. Like, 16. This isn't, she, Spirit said 16. She was young. She was the babysitter. You know, she put him on a pedestal because he was supposed to be a man of faith. Okay. But just because it's like the Bible says, look at the fruits of people's actions. Are people showing you through what they say or what they do? You know, what this person had horrible spending habits, was very criticizing, and would constantly pick at her about her weight and clothes and the way she looked. Somebody who's of God is not going to even care about what you look like or say anything about that. They're going to be very self-controlling in their spending. They're going to have discipline. So that's just some of the things that she's telling us. So we have game player, somebody who making the most of a situation by inflating it. Someone who's full of hot air, somebody who makes themselves look like something. Like I said, somebody who talks a good talk, but their actions say something else. Somebody who cares about what it looks like on the outside. Somebody who's good at making everybody think they're harmless and friendly, but really, they don't have any self-discipline, possibly even lusty. Eyes. Watching, not a good card. Gossip, stalking, slander. Somebody who hidden accounts. Somebody who uses confirmation. Somebody who's very paranoid. Somebody who in MICA's situation, when she tried to escape this person, he started telling everyone that she was crazy, that she had mental problems, that she had to take her medicine. Ooh, I'm getting a sharp pain in the back of my head. Archangel Michael, please remove any negative energy that doesn't want me to read this reading. Thank you so much. So he started, you know, she was trying to keep an open mind, but he was constantly watching her and dictating her life and tracking her and watching who she hangs out with and controlling every aspect of her life, to the point of like a stalker, because he doesn't want her to have an outside perspective of that whatever's going on in their house, confirmation, is actually not healthy. But she was groomed at a young age to think that, you know, the pastor knows best. Temptation, yeah. This is somebody, her husband is somebody who gives into temptation, who always has to be searching for something, somebody who desires him. He has to be desired all the time. He's a narcissist. Chat, open communication with a friend or family member. Incoming messages, social media, text messages, phone calls, messenger. He may have tracked multiple lines of communication to really control the way that she was perceived. He was really trying, like a smear campaign. He may have started conversations with family members, with friends, with people from the church, really reaching out and saying, oh, I don't know what to do about Micah. You know, she's really starting to lose it, and I really want to be optimistic, but I'm not sure what to do. And, you know, just bullshit to make himself seem like some kind of martyr, like someone who's, you know, sure-footed and someone who desires to keep this marriage going. But she was getting tired of him, is what I'm getting. She was getting real tired of him because he's always criticizing her, and he's always spending, his spending habits are poor. He's always spending more than what comes in, and she's starting to see that he's stealing money from the church. She's like, well, how do we have all this money? Where does all, she's starting to notice his spending habits don't reflect what he says the church money is going to go to. So she's starting to call him out on his bullshit. Gossip. Spreading rumors, petty conversations, smearing your image, making you the fool. I cannot make it up. I can't make it up, you guys. That's exactly what I just said. He started doing that because she started to see through him, through his facade of being this harmless, friendly pastor of faith. She started to realize that he's a monster. And the more that he lost his grasp on her, the more she wanted to bring justice about what he was doing. She tried to leave him multiple times. Divorce. I cannot make it up. I told you. Divorce. She tried to leave him multiple times. Why couldn't you leave him? Why couldn't you leave him? Illusions. Keeping things inside, not opening up. Deception. Illusions. Why couldn't you leave him? Why did you keep going back to him? Why did you keep going back to him? Something about something she wanted to keep inside. Revenge, retaliation, plotting payback, punishing, getting even. There's some kind of secret that she was keeping. Some kind of, or something he was holding over her. Something that she did that he may have been holding over her. Something that kept her in an illusion. Something that prevented her from opening up, that she didn't feel ready or comfortable with telling or releasing. There's something that kept her coming back. But he's very vengeful, so he could have either she had some kind of, because the Bible said there was, you know, keeping secrets will create shame. To protect your own image, secrets that need to be shared, if you keep that to yourself, that's considered, you know, against God, an act against God. So there's something she could have, there's something she was ready to reveal that she had been keeping bottled up, that she was ready to open up about. And he could have said, you know, if you leave me, I'm going to retaliate. I'm going to punish you. I control you. I control how everyone's going to believe me, not you. It was very like that. And that scared her. Butterflies, feeling complete, can't stop smiling, happiness and devotion. Oh, he could have held against her, just like the obituary says. It says, what was it? An amazing wife. She helped Pastor P with the church in every way. Micah was a worship leader, a pastor's assistant, and she did all of this with the utmost integrity and faithfulness. Micah made the greatest efforts to always be the best wife she could. She truly served Jesus and her husband with all of her heart. She would praise her husband after every church service, telling him he was the best preacher in the world, even if it wasn't true. She also told him he was the funniest preacher in the world, even if that wasn't true. I mean, this is like, it really feels like projection at its best. You know, who writes an obituary like that? So the thing that he held over her was being a good wife. God's going to think you're not a good wife. God's going to think that you're not serving your husband the way you're supposed to. Because he's the pastor. So she doesn't want to she doesn't want to go against God by not being a good wife. So she tries to be devoted, she tries to be happy, she tries to push everything down that she knows is not supposed to be the way it is. But he's so vengeful and manipulative, toxic right here. Toxic. He's unhealthy, nasty behaviors. She's trying to be a good wife and he's making it impossible, but then telling her that she's not being a good wife unless she puts up with him, which is just ridiculous. Dismiss, disregard, ignore, look the other way, leaving behind. Yeah, he's telling her, you need to ignore all these toxic behaviors I have and just put up with me, because that's what a good wife does. That's part of being married, is you put up with the negativity too. And if you want to leave, but it wasn't love. It wasn't unconditional love. It had conditions. Blind, searching for answers, blinded to the truth, watching you online, wanting to know. But he was dating someone else. And she was blinded to the truth. Why was she blind? Protected spirit. Protected aura, divine intervention, guardian angel shielding. Dating sites, hooking up, seeing someone, one night stands. There's something here about her being blinded to the truth, or not. She was choosing to, even though Spirit was showing her all the ways that this person is not meant to be with. I think that's the misconception that is coming through, is that even in that Bible it said to be a good wife, but if your other person is not being good to you, then you have the right to leave them. Just because it says to be a good wife in the Bible doesn't mean you be a good wife to somebody who's toxic, who has conditional love for you. You're allowed to leave. God doesn't want you to be a good wife to somebody who doesn't deserve it. And I think that's the lesson in this, what's going on with this reading, is that Micah had feelings of shame based upon what this pastor kept telling her about being a good wife. Be the good wife. You're supposed to be good to your husband. That's not what a good wife would say or do. And God doesn't like a vengeful wife, or whatever thoughts he was putting in her head. And even though he was going on dating sites and having unhealthy spending habits, and he was spreading rumors about her, making her seem like she was unstable, and he was having an affair. And because she was so devout to God and she wanted to prove herself to be a good wife, she focused so much on that she ignored all the signs that God was showing her. Not to this person. Be a good wife, but this person doesn't deserve you. And so that's that's how we misinterpret a lot of the Bible. Everything we take everything so seriously, and we don't actually apply it to what we're going through. God doesn't want you to be a good wife just because he says he's a pastor. All his actions say that he's not truly a man of God. He has used he's abusing his power, and he's abusing his right to be a messenger of God to get money. And then he's taking the money and he's spending it on he's cheating on his wife. So it's like, you don't have to be a good wife. You don't have to be with somebody who's exhibiting these behaviors, whether they're a pastor or not. If you're a devout person, if you're devout and you have a high faith and you believe in God and you and Yeshua, and you're reading the Bible, and it says, well, I got to be a good wife though. But not if they're hurting you, not if they're making you not feel loved, not if their love is conditional. If they're a toxic person, you can get divorced. You can leave this person. So he kept holding it over her head that she's not a good wife and God's not going to love you and you're not going to go to heaven and blah, blah, blah. Because he's a manipulator. He's a narcissist. Okay? So she finally made a decision to leave. Witchcraft. I freaking knew it. Someone's hexing. There's a spell, negativity. And before, Spirit said an activated curse. So this pastor, there's something that he's doing. I don't know what, but every time she wanted to leave, she would be drawn back. So there's something he was possibly doing, maybe a love spell or something he was doing to make her stay. Because she made a decision a long time ago she wanted to leave, but he wouldn't let her leave. Boxed up, environmental change, empty shell. Oh. Tell me more about this witchcraft. It says empty shell. Tell me more about this witchcraft. It doesn't have to be like spells and curses, but it could just be spreading rumors and making her feel alone and isolated, spreading negativity about her, making her feel unloved, because that's a form of witchcraft too. Tell me about this empty shell. No. She wants me to change cards. Alright. Well, tell me about what happened the day that you passed. Something about witchcraft and being an empty shell. Environment change, boxed up. A new medical building containing 100 offices has just been completed. Hardy Pyle was hired to paint the numbers 1 to 100 on the doors. How many times will Hardy have to paint the number 9? A new medical building containing 100 offices has just been completed. Hardy Pyle was hired to paint the numbers. So someone may have been hired. Oh my gosh. Could her husband have hired somebody to unalive her? When Mama Leona boils pasta, she adds 3 drops of oil and 2 drops of vinegar to the water. While at the market, Mama accidentally dropped and broke the vinegar bottle. Undaunted, she instructed the shopkeeper to put both the oil and the vinegar in the same jar. How could Mama pour exactly 3 drops of oil and 2 drops of vinegar into the water using just the one bottle? Since oil floats on top of vinegar, Mama removed 3 drops of oil from the surface, sealed the jar, and inverted it. When the oil rose to the top, she simply loosened the lid enough to allow 2 drops of vinegar to fall out. Her husband may have... What? There's something about... I'm just going to say what I'm getting. Oh, I feel nauseous. Oh my god, I just got this wave of nauseousness over me. Somebody hired somebody to make something look like something. To paint the number 9. Something medical. To make somebody look like something. Malevolent entities. Phantom figure, malevolent entities. Holy Divine Spirit, please protect us from any energy that doesn't want us to read this. Archangel Michael, please remove any energy that is not for the highest good. There may have been some kind of spell work done. Somebody was hired to do some kind of spell or hex or some kind of jar spell or something. And I don't know anything about how that's done, but it could have been to bind her or to make her do something or to make her go somewhere or ha ha ha. Oh my god. I think that somebody hired like a practitioner, a lot of money, could have given them a lot of money to make something look like an accident by doing some kind of jar spell or something like that. Something that needs an exact thing, like 3 drops of oil and 2 drops of vinegar, something like that. And that could have resulted in the events that took place. Tell me more. It's just my luck, screamed Barney Dribble. It was about 10:30 in the morning, and for once I hadn't had a drink yet. I was driving along the highway doing the legal speed of 100 kilometers per hour. My old Heap just passed a safety, and my license plates. License and insurance were all in order. Not only that, but I was even wearing my seatbelt. So anyway, I'm driving along. I pass a couple cars, being certain not to go over 100 clicks. And the next thing I know, a cop pulls me over and gives me a ticket. What could Barney have done wrong? Barney was doing something only slightly illegal. He was driving his car in the wrong direction. The cars he passed were going the opposite way. Wow, so whoever hired this person was saying, it's just my luck. They were excited because they purposely made it. Ugh. Oh. This person hired a practitioner to do some kind of jar spell to make MICA blind and to have her do, she was under some kind of illusion, to make her do something. There's a spell. Someone's hexing. There's a spell. To make him look like he wasn't connected to her death. Because he was driving. There's something about he was driving somewhere away, so how could he have been a part of it? But he still deserves a ticket because he did something wrong. You know what? This is why I say I think there should be some kind of like magistrate or something, just like Harry Potter, where you have like intuitives and empaths that can detect when people do magic, because there are practitioners out there, voodoo people and all that shit, that project energy, that manipulate energy, that make people do things that they shouldn't be doing. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's literally what's coming up right here. I cannot make it up. And that would be a reason why she would have done it, because she was ready to. Why would somebody kill themselves when they're filing the divorce and they're got a place set up and they're going to their families and they're making all these plans? Why would they turn around and unalive themselves? It makes no sense. And the reason why it doesn't make any sense is because of a spell. It's the one thing that we experience in society that we don't think about, that we don't think is even an option. And because of that, it makes our society more susceptible to it. So this person paid somebody to do this. There's people out there who will take money to do this. We looked it up on Spirit has brought us to many pages on Facebook where they say, oh, I have a deal to do a binding spell, to do this and that, and just ridiculous things that people will do because they're so emotional. Shady said they had run out of water 3 days ago. If that was the case, Shady would have been dehydrated and would not have been perspiring when he jumped aboard the Coast Guard ship. Yeah, because MICA he felt he was at his wit's end because she was going to finally divorce him, and she was going to tell everybody that he steals money from the church. And no trace. He didn't want there to be any trace to him that he does anything out of the ordinary, that he's this good preacher, that he's, his whole obituary that he created for her is literally uplifting him when it should be about her. Like, that's sick. So he had run out of options and he was desperate. And so he resorted to finding a solution, and the solution is witchcraft. And I know, a Ouija board. He may have already, thank you, he may have already been playing with the occult and things in the occult when he met her. And that's why he was already exhibiting toxic behaviors, because he's always been like this. Sid Shady boarded his flight to Israel. He noticed an old acquaintance in the back of the plane. He shouted a greeting to his friend by name, then knocked on the cockpit door to say hello to one of the pilots who was also an old friend. Several moments later, Shady was arrested. So there's something here about And if anybody of importance is watching this who could possibly help the case, you may want to check some kind of like I don't know what they would look like or how they would be available, because I don't do that kind of stuff, but there's something about an old friend who has a connection to a practitioner who deals in the occult, who practices some kind of occultism, someone who they knew did this kind of thing, that they may have done stuff like this in the past. There may be some kind of like app or some kind of communication that's done by something shady, something dark, something like unseen, some kind of unseen communication about this friend. He asked this friend, do you know somebody? He was looking for ways to alleviate the situation, and he has an old friend who dabbles in the occult and witchcraft. And this person recommended a practitioner who asked for a certain amount of money that he paid to have this done, and that's why it makes no sense, because Micah was not somebody who would unalive herself. She was a devout Christian. She even stayed in a toxic marriage because she wanted to be a good wife. Why would she turn around and go kill herself when she's ready to leave and ready to move on with her life? But he wouldn't let her. And she threatened to reveal what he was doing. And so the truth is that she did pull the trigger, and she did buy the gun, she did pull the trigger, but not because it was her own idea. It was because she was being manipulated by energy, by spirit said a malevolent spirit. This practitioner did some kind of spell or invoke some kind of malevolent entity that gave her intrusive thought to do this. And so she did it because she was under some kind of mind trap, some kind of illusion. Okay. And her husband was laughing to the bank because he thought, oh my God, it worked. But he doesn't understand how energy works. And he's not going to get away with it. I'll tell you that right now. He's not going to get away with it. He wanted something to happen to her that would leave no trace to him, because he didn't want to ruin his reputation, but he was so quick to ruin her reputation and make her seem crazy that it was all a trap. This was all leading up to it because he was dating someone else and he wanted to go away with her. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you, Micah. This is why we teach you about energy, because what we are learning is that if you don't have something within you that matches this energy, whatever this energy that was projected at her wouldn't have affected her at all. It wouldn't have been a match, and it would have repelled right off of her. But she already had a chip on her shoulder of shame for being a bad wife. She had this false belief in her head that she was a bad wife, that she didn't make her marriage work, so that made her an ungodly woman. But she kept secrets that were hurting people, and she felt bad about that as well. It took her a long time to overcome this fear of leaving this person and being looked at as a bad wife. She's not a bad person, but her belief system says that you have to be a good wife to your husband. And if you leave your husband and you're not devout to your husband, then you can be looked at in shame. And that's the thing that we need to really bring across to you guys, is that God doesn't care about that stuff. God cares about your heart. He doesn't care about the way you look to other people. He cares about the choices you make that are that are valuable, that are moral. You don't have to stay with somebody who's a toxic person because you're afraid everyone will view you as being a bad wife, because this person used or spread rumors and gossip and was in and tried to make her seem like she was crazy. So she didn't want to leave him, and then everybody think that she was this crazy person who's a horrible wife. And so it has to do with vanity, with her being in her ego. She didn't want to be looked at in a certain way to her community. But who cares? This person is a bad person, and he's using you, and he doesn't deserve your devotion. You should leave him. God gave you many signs to leave, and you didn't listen to them because of your belief system. And that's where we kind of falter with our beliefs. We're so stuck on a certain belief because it says in the Bible. But you know what else it says in the Bible? That you should make sacraments and burn things, and that's not true. You don't have to do those things to that you have to go to your pastor or your priest to love God. No, that's not true either. There's lots of things in the Bible that are like, and there's lots of things that are good, but you can't take it so literally that you avoid and are blinded to the truth of your situation. It's just because you're so afraid of what other people are think about you, you know? Empowerment. Empowerment. The frequency of empowerment supports our ability to show up fully and completely, uniting us with others in the deep trust that we are all connected through the same source. Yeah, she gave up her power to this person, and she allowed this person to overpower her in so many ways that it came to a point where she felt like she was trapped, like she couldn't escape. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Micah, you went through that. Thank you so much for coming through. Please let us know what you learned in retrospect from a higher perspective. What would you have done differently? What would you have done differently? Goodness. I refine my character and overcome difficulties by remaining positive. I calm my heart and illuminate my intellect to transform shadow into light. I consciously manifest goodness in and around me. I improve I improve my qualities for the benefit of all. She allowed his negativity to infiltrate her, and she believed it. And she didn't believe that she was good unless she was a good wife, because God says to be a good wife. God says to be a devout wife. He's the pastor. She didn't believe that she could overcome these difficulties and remain positive because she was just beaten down. She was a beaten down woman, and she allowed negative thoughts to infiltrate her mind. She was being infiltrated through her thoughts. And she believed that she wouldn't be a good wife unless she just stayed and put up with it. Okay? And that's not true. Being with this person didn't make her a good person. This person made him a good person because he was just mirroring her. It was all an illusion. He was never good to begin with. But she was so young, she just couldn't see. She didn't believe she was good without him. Inner work. Inner work. God brings me ideal situations for my inner healing. As I become aware of my weaknesses, I turn them into strengths. I direct my thoughts toward the light and see the positive side of every stage of my life. Darkness turns into courage, thus I get stronger. That's what we're saying. She sees now from a higher perspective that her thoughts about herself led her to be susceptible to the energy that was projected towards her, and led her to be infiltrated by these intrusive thoughts that she thought were her own. Because if she had empowered herself to believe that she could do better without this person, that she had the strength to overcome this person, that she could out this person, she believed what he was telling her. No, you'll never be anything without me. I'm I'm going to make sure that you never see the light of day. Whatever he was telling her, she believed it. Instead of taking that thing and putting her faith into God, she allowed those thoughts of negativity to make her think that she could never, ensnaring darkness, that she could never escape this person, and that wasn't true. And so what we're learning about energy is energy goes where your focus goes. If your thoughts are constantly filled with hope or despair and darkness, I'll never get out of this. He's never going to let me leave. He's never going to allow me to leave. He's going to kill me. If I die, it's going to be because of him. And those are things that you don't want to focus on, because you will manifest them. And so I'm not saying it's her fault, but she's telling us right now that she did play a part in the energy of it. You have to know that you'll be protected and you'll be guided and you'll be helped at all times. That whatever you're experiencing, there's also joy in that experience, and there's a reason you're experiencing it. And you could possibly be the part that God needs you to play to bring justice to somebody who's abusing their power. But if you give in to that negativity and you believe that you can't escape it and that you're not part of a bigger plan, then you will fall victim to the energy. So she sees now in part of the land, part of the plan. Hello. So she believed in God. She did. She loves God, but she didn't see herself in that energy because she was just beaten down. She didn't see the goodness in her. She thought she was, this bad person, and she never escaped. And she just had really intrusive thoughts, possibly projected by some kind of someone on the outside, some kind of practitioner, possibly. But what God is saying, and what MICA's 2010s, is that every situation you come into that is perceived as negative, it is an opportunity to use that situation as a way to harness your faith, harness your joy, finding joy to help you direct your thoughts toward the light. Because you cannot know what you want unless you experience what you don't want. If we came here to Earth and we didn't experience any contrast, then how would we know what we want? It would be boring. It would be boring, honestly. Everyone starts out innocent. Everyone is corrupted. Wisdom is the discarding of vices and the return to virtue by way of knowledge. Yeah, definitely. Knowledge is power. And in this case, she didn't understand energy. And that's something that we're very passionate about doing these readings for, is because outside of this universe, energy is the currency. And here, money is the currency, but really it's energy. If you focus on your energy and you clear your field and you heal your heart and you work on doing the inner work, you will attract what you vibrate at, because we are first and foremost vibration and frequency. And when this bag of bones passes away, we are still that, and we return back to the source. And so inside of this vessel, we are still that. And so when you are in your mind and you're thinking all these thoughts, that's not what you truly are. You can control your emotions, you can control your thoughts, but you have to practice, and you have to be aware that by controlling those things, you can control what happens to what you attract to you, and you will match God's energy. And when you match God's energy and you know that he will guide you away, and you're able to listen and you're able to receive the messages, you will know what to do. And so it's all about energy. It's all about energy. That's literally all we are, is energy. Everything is energy. And we need to understand this on a fundamental level, because we allow these intrusive thoughts to dictate what happens to us, and we lose our lives too soon, and we fall victim and we fall prey to people who don't have the best intentions, who are operating in their reptilian brain, when really the whole time we are pure positive energy having a human experience. We are not our thoughts. We can create our thoughts. Our thoughts are our wand. And so if you can practice and know that you're a divine being having a human experience, you will attract divine things. But if you're constantly saying to yourself, I'm never gonna get out of this, he's gonna kill me, and he hates me, and he's gonna make sure my life is hell, well, you can rest assured that because that's what you believe and that's what you keep repeating to yourself, and those are the thoughts you have over and over in your head, then that's what you're gonna experience. And that's what made her susceptible to this intrusive thought. Okay? Ooh. So don't worry. What's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to this person that did this to her? What's going to happen to him? Patience. Just a few more months. Good things come to those who wait. So God doesn't want to reveal what's going to happen to him, but he's going to receive his justice, and he better he better be careful, because he's not living a life of peace right now. He's not, because of what he did. He knows he did something that he shouldn't have done, and he thought he'd be able to live with himself, but God's going to make sure that he doesn't. So the lesson here is to direct your thoughts toward the light and see the positive side of every stage of life. Don't allow whatever's happening to you to control your future. Don't allow yourself to focus on all the negative things that are happening, because that's what you'll attract. So that's the lesson here. Control your thoughts, find the joy in all contrast, and know that whatever's happening to you is to help you see a brighter side and to help you choose joy. Okay, I love you so much. I hope it helps. Thank you, MICA, for being with us. I love you. Bye.